Today we're gonna go through the whole filling process through this. There's ink all up in this assembly. Trickle that down before you paint, right? Not paint. What are you talking about? What's up, y'all? Ron Kwok here. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing something with our fountain pen. I recently discovered new inks, custom inks, cartridges. I climbed down the rabbit hole and it's been really exciting. And I haven't been able to do anything yet because I've been stuck trying to figure out how to film this. So I'm gonna have two angles, one here and one here. We have the Big Idea Designs Ultem EDC fountain pen. This one is a lot lighter than their signature. This is the all titanium version, all black. This is way lighter because Ultem inherently is a lighter material than the titanium. We're gonna have some fun today because this does not have any ink in it. And the reason being is because I've been using these pre-filled Kaweco ink cartridges that go straight into here. So if you were to unscrew the barrel, right, you just plug it into here, let it flow for a few seconds, and then you're gonna start being able to write really easily. But of course, I have to start messing with custom inks, right? You know, you stay in this community long enough, people start asking you, hey, blue, black, you get a unique color out of it. So today we got something special. The Iroshizuku ink from Pilot. This one is the Tsukiyo color. Pull this out here for you to check out. I'm actually really excited about this. I bought this, I think legitimately I bought this like 2 weeks ago. But I couldn't figure out exactly how to film it, and then I was like, you know what, I want the angles just right, maybe I'll make a short out of it, maybe I'll do long form. I had analysis paralysis, and I just kept thinking about it, and I didn't film it. We're just gonna do it. We got this angle, So here it is, the ink, Iroshizuku Pilot Tsukiyo. Put this down. I mean, even the bottle itself is like custom. I feel like I'm straight out of it, like MMORPG or something like that. Let me wipe all these. My grimy fingerprints aren't all over it. So the bottle itself looks pretty dope. We're gonna go through the whole filling process from using the converters, putting it into the pen, filling it up with ink, all that stuff. It's like a dark blue with, I hear online that it has like a slightly red tinge to it, which is interesting. I'm gonna check it out. There that is. That's the ink. We also have these little mini converters from Kaweco. So these pens take Kaweco converters. So depending on what pen you have, you got to make sure that you use the right converter for use. So if you're using a Lamy pen or if you're using some other fountain pen, you got to make sure that whatever converter you use fits that pen. You just pull the plunger up to suck up the ink. So we've got the pen, the ink, the converter. Let's get into the process, all right? Coming into this without doing the research, I thought that you fill up the converter independently and then you plug the converter into the top of the feed and then you start writing like normal. But I think from what we're reading here, you plug the empty converter into the feed, which is connected to the nib, then you dip the whole assembly nib into the ink bottle or reservoir. And then you start counterclockwise turning this thing and it'll suck up the ink into the converter, and you keep doing so until it's full, at which point you cut it off and you're set to go. The feed is already saturated with ink. You're ready to write without having to wait for it to kind of like fill up or draw into the feed. Once again, everything's already filled up, ready to go. All right, I got some paper towels because most likely gonna make a little bit of a mess. So we're gonna cover this here, and plus it'll give you a little contrast here in the shot. We got the ink pen, we've got the converter, we've got the ink itself. Let's roll, okay? All right, so first what we gotta do is take off the cap, unscrew the barrel, and then with this Kaweco converter, we're gonna just stick it onto the feed here. So now that we have this completely set up, I mean, it's real quick, right? Next step, the pièce de résistance. Gotta get this ink ready to go. Oh, I'm so excited. Okay, let's unscrew this. How deep do you go? I don't know, but we're gonna figure it out together. All right, we're gonna start. Okay, I have to hold the converter because if I try and counterclockwise turn the piston, the whole piston assembly turns. So here, I'm gonna just start. Interesting. Part of the feed started filling up with ink, but that was just like from me putting it in there. What the hell? I think air is escaping somehow. How much ink? I'm not sure. Alright, let me see if I can get a better... Yeah, I feel like this is gonna be a better angle. Alright, let's try it again. Okay, so the reason why some air is getting into the pocket is I'm not getting it low enough, or it's just catching some air on the way up. So what I'm gonna try and do, we have this here at the ready. See how there's a hell of bubbles everywhere? The art of shooting this thing. Okay, let's see if I can. Okay, there. So I'm gonna just express the ink back in, dip the whole pen assembly in there, and then bring it up. So now, ooh, that was a good fill. That was a pretty good fill. See how it's all dark? There's ink all up in this assembly, so we don't have to wait for it to trickle that down before we paint, right? What? Paint? What are we talking about? Okay, so because we drew up the ink from the nib through the feed into the converter, we don't have to wait for the ink to trickle back down in order for us to write. Everything is all set up. We just got to clean up this little mess before we attach the barrel back on. And I think we should be good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and, because I know as soon as I move, I'm going to knock this thing over. So we're going to put that right there. I'm going to clean up this, dang. We're going to clean up this nib. 2-ply paper towel isn't enough, you know what I'm saying? We're gonna screw that barrel back on. Now here's hoping that the barrel, once I screw it on, does not push down on the piston, which I don't think it will. So this is why you need the right converter for the right pen, right? Some barrels are short because, you know, it's a small pen, whatever, that's fine. But once that piston is fully extended, you see how it effectively doubles the length of that converter? If the barrel's not long enough and you screw that barrel on, it's gonna inadvertently push on that piston and it's gonna push some of that ink back out. And the only place for that ink to go is back through the nib. So if you do that and you don't realize it, you're gonna be squirting ink out of that nib and you're gonna be making a big old mess. So there's the nib, there's the feed. You can tell it's fully saturated because it's all dark with that blue ink. And then the converter is in there fully filled with the piston fully extended. So that means that we're good to go. Let's cap that. Let's get a fresh piece of paper and write some stuff. Let's see how this writes. So another nuance of this game that I only learned recently is paper matters, right? Sometimes the ink will bleed through the paper if the paper's not thick enough. And there's other nuances to the paper that I'm not yet an expert at, so I'm not going to talk about too much. I found that with field notes, fountain pens tend to bleed a little more often, so I picked up a Rhodia notepad. You've seen this here on the channel before, I believe. And I also have Leuchtturm notebooks. That works just fine. Let's go ahead and flip to a non-filled page. Okay, so we got dot grid, you know just how I like it. Fountain pens are the best. Ooh, I like the color. I don't see that red tinge, but I think in the testing that I've seen online, it's not such a fine nib that they're using. They're like paintbrush stroking it. So there's big sort of blotches of the ink, and that's when you can kind of see the red. But I mean, the shade itself is still great. Okay, so this is also my like casual note taking. So I used to write purely in block letters, so that it would look something like this. Are the best. And you can kind of tell that it took a lot longer to write that. So I'm kind of done with that. I want to be able to write more casually, you know. We're going to float somewhere in the middle, you know what I'm saying? So it's going to be like needless to say, I need to work on it just a bit. But I'm loving how the pen writes. It's immediately flowing through. I don't have any flow issues. I'm really excited to start using this again because while I was hemming and hawing about filming and not doing the thing, I've been using the other Big Eye EDC fountain pen. And while it's a great pen, I've noticed that it's significantly heavier. You know what I mean? It's titanium, of course. So I'm stoked to be using this Ultem pen again. Ooh, look, see? I don't know what this means. Does that mean that I messed up a little bit and it's bleeding out? Or is that just... Oh, you know what? It's from the nib touching the cap. Oh, that's annoying. We'll have to figure that out, but that's messy. Okay, and then... Ugh.
Okay, so we got the pen, it's all filled up, ready to go. I wanted to talk a little bit about the other pens that I currently use and why I even use a pen in the first place. It's 2024, lots of things are digital, why even use a pen? I just have a Pentel Energel, this is the Kuro. It's really fun to use because it's a gel pen, writes really well, and it's cheap. I think this one was like, it was like $4 for 2 of them. It's really fun to use. I just like how gel writes on paper. Barrel is grippy. It's a click pen as well, so you don't have to worry about capping it or anything like that. That's just an easy pen that I have lying around that I use when I'm not using fountain pens, right? I am getting deep into the rabbit hole, so who knows what's coming up next. I really have to pee. I'm gonna be right back.
Okay, I'm back. That's the cost of staying hydrated. Gotta use the bathroom more. But anyway, another thing that I'm using a lot is this Sharpie Magnum. Now this thing I mainly use to blot out my address when it comes to unboxing videos, and the package is right there, the address label is right there, and I want to, you know, cross that out. This makes it super easy, so if you can see right there, it's very fat tip. Sharpie Magnum, super useful for marking a lot of stuff with a big wide tip or censoring your packages. Now, one interesting point that I've seen floating around in the comments is, Ron, it's 2024, why even carry a pen? Whenever you need a pen, you have one. When you go to the bank, they got plenty of pens for your right deposit slips. When you go to a restaurant and it's time to sign the bill, they bring you a pen. So why bother with this? Isn't it redundant? Isn't it stupid? Waste of money, all that kind of stuff? I hear you, and it makes a lot of sense. And usually when you're out and about and an institution or a restaurant requires you to sign something, they give you a pen. But I've run into a fair share of scenarios where they'll give me a pen that doesn't work and I gotta flag them down and ask for another one. Or at a bank, you know how there's a table with all the deposit slips and they got that one pen that's attached to a little chain. When you use that, maybe it's dry. And it's happened to me a couple of times. So when it does happen, as seldom as that may be, it can become annoying and it slows you down. And if you want to be efficient, you know, do whatever you're doing more quickly, then I feel like having a pen has its merit. And with pens, I'm not saying this is the case with every single facet of gear and accessories and everyday carry, but I feel like the barriers to entry of a pen are a lot lower than maybe a tablet or, you know, a pocket knife. Those things just intrinsically cost a little more. And so with pens, and especially with such a small form factor, I feel like slipping it in your pocket or your everyday sling, you don't really notice a difference. It doesn't weigh you down. It doesn't take up a lot of space. And so when you weigh the pros and cons of having a pen on you, I feel like it's easy to have a pen on me to solve those little annoying problems that you might run into. Now, there's a whole separate topic about how much you want to spend and how deep you want to go in this rabbit hole. And of course, when you think about that, that can easily rack up to $20, $50, $100, several $100s when you're hunting down those crazy pens made of exotic materials, and not to mention the inks too, you know what I mean? Inks can get expensive too, depending on how custom or how limited you want to go with that. So that's a topic for another day. But let me know what you think. Do pens still have a place in your pocket, in your bag in 2024? Let me know in the comments below and which pen you use most frequently. Now, if you want to see how a pen works in the greater context of the rest of your gear, your accessories in an everyday daily essentials loadout, I'll leave some videos here for inspiration. Until next time, live with purpose, peace.